Sorry. So yeah, welcome everybody. I am a master's student here at IUP, Eric Barker. I work for the Division of Marketing Communications, and I am getting my master's degree in strategic communications, which is here in the communications media department. So today I wanted to share the preliminary results of my research. So they're preliminary because I'm about a month away from completing, or so, maybe a little longer, completing the thesis project. So I'd like to, before we get to that point, share my findings while the semester is still here, and because there should be some practical takeaways, hopefully, that IUP could take from this and improve student communications. So I'll start with what are the reasons of the study, some of the academic framework that sort of framed the project. I'll share the questions. This was a survey instrument that was distributed to 280 respondents applied, and then I'll show you some of that, talk about the results, and where we go from here. And I would love to engage people in a discussion at the end. So I was the purpose of the study is really to determine what's the best way to get students involved with student organizations. So the two-part question. One is which communication channel. So there are so many ways to communicate with students. Which is best? Is it email? Is it flyers? Is it chocolate walk? And what techniques can you use within the content of those messages to best keep those student interests of what I'm trying to study? So this is personal to me for a couple reasons. One is if I were to do my undergraduate degree over again, I went to Carnegie Mellon in 4 years, and I had a decent time there. But if I were to change one thing, it would be I would join a student organization freshman year. Freshman year, I was, it was the first time away from home, and like many people, the transition was tough for me because I didn't know people in my new city where I was attending college. I experienced a moderate amount of homesickness and loneliness, as some people do. And if I would have joined a student organization, which I thought I was too busy to do, I would have started building that network and built that support network, and probably improved my co-curricular experience. There is a limited amount, there's a lot of academic research into reciprocity, which is the human nature. If somebody does something nice to you, you're more likely to reciprocate and do something nice to them. However, the research is limited in the higher ed space, and it's limited in the electronic communication space. So I'm trying to sort of bridge that gap. So there are some academic underpinnings for this. Student involvement theory basically says students get as much out of the classroom as they do in the classroom. So student organizations being a big part of that. Experiential learning theory, that's learning by doing, is a good way to learn. Expectancy theory goes into students will look at outcomes. So that theory says if you look at outcomes and you only have a limited amount of time and resources, so if you expect to get a reward out of something, you're more likely to respond and find the reciprocity, which I talked about. So my research question I've already talked about. I had two major hypotheses. One is that I expected that if students would rank messages that have an element of reciprocity baked into it, I expected them to be more persuasive than those that didn't. And I'll go into that in more detail, what that actually looks like. My second hypothesis was if you're involved, you're less likely to think about dropping out. So we lose at IUP about 25% or so students between freshman year and sophomore year. So if we were able to retain those students, we're going to help the enrollment situation. So I sent, as part of this, I got 2,000 random sample, 2,000 undergraduate students here at IUP. And in Banner, our student information system, they were coded as student organization members. So I said, give me all the student org members. And I knew that many of those students, some of those students wouldn't self-identify as members at all, even though our student information system says that they are, for a couple of reasons. One, Every student living in a residence hall at IUP is considered a member of the Residence Hall Association. So they're technically student organization members, even if they just by being living in the dorms, but they might not attend the meeting. Secondly, anyone that was added to a roster in Crimson Connect is considered an organization member, even though they may have just signed up signed a sign-up sheet in IUP Day, but never went. So this research includes not only student organization members, how they learn about their organization, but also those that haven't joined. I wanted to ask, why haven't you joined? What's holding you back? And then both sets of those groups got the other questions in the survey, including the reciprocity one. So the main experimental variable was reciprocity. So I asked students to rank. I had a bank of 10 questions, and each person only got 5 of the questions, and it was randomized and counterbalanced. So, so it was a variation of each question, and I asked them which would make it more likely for you to take action, get involved with a student organization. So I'll go ahead and share with you what that looks like here. So here were the 5 questions, the 5 messages I asked. So each message started the same way. So for example, I'll just go over this networking opportunities one. So each message said, by joining an organization, you can meet students, professionals with common goals of interest. Student orgs are a great way to network with individuals who help to further your career. So 50% got this, which includes reciprocity, which emphasizes somebody did something on your behalf. So it says, we've put together a list of dozens of student organizations we think you'd be interested in. And then the other half got a non-reciprocal message, which means IEP has dozens of student organizations that may be interested in you. So you can see this has emphasized that people have done something on your behalf. So the hypothesis is these A's will be more likely that people would rank them higher. So there were 5 categories of messages. One emphasizing the networking opportunities. Second, emphasized your social opportunities. It's a great way to meet people and have fun. The third was resume building and professional experience. Fourth, advocated for leadership skills. And fifth, emphasized your community service. And yeah, so the other questions in the survey ask about why they haven't joined, which social media channels do they use the most, and ask if how frequently they've thought about leaving the university in the past year. So we got a wide variety of respondents in terms of gender, race, LGBT status, age. Most were undergraduates, so age was obviously clustered in the under 20. LGBT status, Gen Z, up to 40%. I've read up to 40% of Gen Z people self-identify as non-straight, and that actually showed in the data. I think it was 35% non-straight. So that was interesting. So I did a pilot test. I'll skip over that. I talked about the rate already. We got 280 responses, which was pretty good, 14%, pretty good response rate. So here I have a Zoom thing in the way. Got to hide that. So one of the interesting findings, that one of the hypotheses that I had was confirmed, and that is that student organization, people that didn't join a student organization, were twice as likely to think about leaving the university in the last year than those who have joined. Now, two provisos is one, I haven't completed the statistical analysis on this yet, so I can't comment on statistical significance, but just looking at the numbers, it looks like a significant difference from, before crunching the numbers. And secondly, association does not imply causation. So it doesn't mean that they were less likely to think about leaving because they were members of student organizations, because a person who's more likely to join may just happen to be less likely to think about leaving. So it's not a causal relationship, but there is a strong association. So that hypothesis was confirmed. You can see, especially in the frequently and very frequently, what's that add up to? 21% of non-members frequently thought about leaving the university, compared to members, only 4%. So that was fairly striking. And these were the numbers behind those pictures. So the second hypothesis was not confirmed. So I expected the reciprocal language to perform a little bit better, but it did not. In fact, if you look at the difference, it was almost the reverse effect, although, again, I haven't finished the stats, but they're pretty much negligible. But the one thing you can see a big difference is I sorted this by average ranking. So participants rank these from 5 to 1, 5 being the most persuasive message, 1 being least. So here you can see the most effective message was outcomes. So relating this back to that expectancy theory is if students expect to get an outcome out of something, they're more likely to take advantage of that. So resume building and what you get out of it, that was the most persuasive message. Compare that to, the least persuasive message was leadership skills. So, and you can see between here and here is a pretty large amount. Tammy Mako joined in the chat to say it's very encouraging for the Career and Professional Development Center. Yeah, it is. Yep, you can definitely use this in your marketing for your office. So diving into the stats, or the numbers, I should say, here is some results on how students first learned about the organizations they joined. So number 1 was friends, and maybe it's because I don't teach classes and I'm not in a student-facing role, but that surprised me. Looking retrospectively, yeah, it makes sense, friends, but that was number 1. So, and then second was the student org affairs, and I think that shows that it makes our university does such a good job, I think, at our student organization fairs. So IUP Day is such a great event and very well attended, and so you can see that's number 1. There's a cluster then between Crimson Connect faculty, and it sort of drops off after that. So the summary here, I think, is people, friends, and faculty, and then there's 3 in the middle: student org fair, social media, and our Crimson Connect software that we use. The items, and this was a checkbox here that people could select from, and the things cited at least were the IUP Now newsletter and the Pathfinder email newsletter. Let's see. So then I asked, so that first question was asked of student organization members. These were the non-members. So the biggest thing was academic obligation. So the amount of time you're spending in class, research. But what this shows me is that targeted messaging can really move people to get involved, because out of this group that was not involved, you can see have not found that I like, have not found one that I liked, and simply not interested or not familiar with student organizations. Those are movable items. You can move those people to participate. And I plan to join one next year indicates that they're not opposed to joining, they just haven't done it yet. So I think that shows a real good opportunity to communicate. So looking at social media, these are rough charts. I'm a month out, haven't finished this yet, so I'm going to reorganize this a little bit. But you can see the order in which they were listed just happens to be the results almost. So look at the green bar, the greenish blue bar. So Snapchat was the number 1, followed by Snapchat was number 1, followed by Instagram, then TikTok, then YouTube. So significantly fewer students use Twitter, LinkedIn, and then not many people use Discord. Although Discord is growing in popularity, has been since the pandemic. So I also collected some qualitative results. So I asked people, I point blank, asked them, how do you think student organizations could better market themselves? And I went line by line through all of those 200 some responses and categorized them. And what are the themes? So one is enhanced social media presence. And that can either be the number of posts, quality of posts, or the number of platforms they're on. Social media was number 1, I think. In-person visibility can either be actual events or attending events or tabling on campus. Specificity. So that is they said a lot of student organizations don't specify what exactly they do, or what exactly is this first meeting going to be, or they wanted more granular detail. And they thought, yeah, I use my student organization IEP, but it's we're getting people interested in elections. Well, that's not very native. So what specifically are you doing? That's what students wanted to hear in those messages. And finally, something I call tone. So anytime people mention being fun or friendly, or some people mention diversity or inclusion or being open to people of different backgrounds, incorporating that into your tone would seem to be helpful. I have here, I'm not going to go through all of these, but I can send this to anyone who would like to. I'm including as an appendix in my thesis document. And this could be a nice job aid or reference guide for student organizations. Is I went through and included some actual quotes in there. So social media, communication vehicles, having a monthly newsletter. Some of these students had really interesting questions. IUP Day, having more frequent events like IUP Day because some people have class during the time. That was good. Having an elevator speech, more visibility. Some things mentioned more communication from the university itself. So those details are available, and I'm happy to share them with anybody. Okay, so those were the preliminary results of the research. So I would love to, and I have lots more detail, and also, but I would also like to get anyone's comments, questions, ideas. I guess the first thing I'll ask is what's your interpretation of what I presented, and do you have any questions for me? And then after that's done, maybe we can move on to what do you think IUP should do to improve communications with students and getting them involved in work. So anyone in the room or anyone on Zoom?
I think it's interesting that students, just even like scrolling through that, what you were, those responses, those quantitative or qualitative responses, you have students that say like send out more mass emails or, text or have made IEP accounts. They want, it's really always been a catch-22 because they say they want more, and then we inundate them with more, and then they don't pay attention much, so I worry about that when we send out, mass emails to Crimson Connect, and we very sparingly use the all student email. So another alternative for that is for people to email us as administrators and say, hey, can you send this out over Crimson Connect? And I worry all the time that that's going to just be like, oh, it's another Crimson Connect email, just going to delete it, So I don't know. It's always interesting that they want more and more and more, but then they don't because they don't pay attention when they get it.
Well, and to add to that, I know a lot of students are thinking about the fact that now first you want me to read all the emails, and now I have to do an extra step to read all the emails. I'm not doing it. That's what they told me.
Yeah. I think a lot of our student organizations talk about the leadership opportunities, and they tend to lead with, we're going to get you engaged and you're going to lead us. And you saw how that didn't rank really high. That was the bottom. And so some of what you found would be very useful to student leaders to read and understand. And so that's good stuff.
Yeah, especially the specificity part, because that is not a surprise. That data doesn't surprise me at all, because details are key information.
Right.
It's kind of a simple.
Right. Good. This camera can stop working. Sorry for those online. I think the batteries died in this remote, or we're stuck on Betsy here. So
I don't want to be.
Yeah, right. Maybe I'll watch. Okay.
I thought it was interesting that there was quite a lot of students that said that they learned about a student organization from a faculty member.
Yeah.
You know,
I thought that was impressive too, and I was sort of surprised, about that. I'll put that back up.
I think if faculty knew that, maybe they would also give students who are in an organization, you know, encouragement to talk about their involvement in class in order for those other students who are more hesitant to join, to get more information from them directly, because I think it's so much easier to really get information from somebody directly, you know, face to face, and specificity is what they're really looking for. So they could get that from another person by asking, what exactly do you do in the organization?
Yeah, great. I'm gonna write that down. Yep. Good. Great. Now I'd love to hear about ideas for next steps. So thinking outside the box, or thinking about how we can best engage student organizations through communication. Where should we go from here? Like what concrete steps should IEP take, or faculty members, or anybody really, to get students more engaged?
The tough question.
Yeah,
That's the
it's $1 million question. How about some of our friends on Zoom from marketing communications? Given all the experience that you have to date here at IEP and some of this new research coming in, what do you think? And maybe that's a question for Mike or Nikki or Simon.
I think in general, we've been trying to make like organizations seem a little bit more approachable. So I think, like you said, one of the findings about not necessarily feeling like they need to be in a leadership position, you know, just kind of making it seem more like everybody can just join a club. You don't have to be the leader, right? You don't have to do a bunch of things, but there's a lot of options out there. So I think doing some of the student org videos that we've been working on this semester, the video team's been doing, just kind of even trying to show them what's out there, because even in some of the research we've done for incoming students or for newer students, we're finding that people want to know like what clubs and organizations we have, so they know what they can join, and that's kind of how they find their friend group. So you know, I think continuing to do that kind of stuff where we make the groups a little bit more visible and approachable will be helpful.
Yeah, Nikki said a lot of what I was going to say, but with our student organization videos and our approach to talking about student organizations in general, we've really pushed the community aspect, just because when we talk to prospective students, finding a place, finding a home, finding a community is a big thing on their minds. So we're presenting those student organizations as a place where you're going to make friends and have a home. We do typically talk to the leaders, so you'll see that there's leadership opportunities in there. But if you watch those videos, it's really sort of the same story every time, that this is a place that these people have maybe founded, and created a home for themselves.
I know that we're talking about, if I may say, in Welcome Week, having kind of that carnival. I mean, towards the end of it. And I heard that it might be an opportunity for student orgs to have tables there, have carnival tables there. But that might be a really good opportunity to talk about the belonging, recruiting for that event, if that's happening. Talking about the way to connect with student orgs to find your, already start to find them. I don't know if that's happening, but that's what I heard.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a desire. Yes.
It
It's
is,
always
it's-
been a
yeah.
desire. I think unfortunately the balance, the fact that students coming back early,
Yes.
students being able to get into their housing, either on or off campus, that whole thing.
I think it was Saturday. Well, anyhow, yeah.
So
I think it's a neat idea, and just anecdotally, this is only one data point, but for my student organization, I only did that once. The first Saturday, I was able to get a partner and go in for IEP votes, register voters. I have never had as much interest as I did that one time I went Saturday. And that's the students were coming in to get their keys for the residence halls. I must have had 80 to 90% register to vote
That's cool.
because they were in the mindset of signing up for it.
Yeah,
So if we have student
Yeah.
organization tables there, that's a neat idea.
I think we talked about that.
Mhm.
It's in the students,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah, for fun. Yeah, it's
Right.
hard because they don't have a place.
they may not be able to get further housing yet,
Uh-huh.
or they come up with other ideas of what they want to do
Right.
that first.
Oh,
weekend.
yeah. Even if you open it up and, even if you had only 10 student organizations do it, it's better than zero. And there's enough people that join early, like athletes and doesn't honors college move in early. so-
Marching band, but they're here for a purpose, they're not here to pay for.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've been on that.
yeah.
Is there a central online home for a list of all student organizations in one place?
There is, yeah. I made reference to Crimson Connect. That's the, that was one of the most highly rated ones, and that's this organization system. Yep. It'll take me a while. Let's keep talking, but I'll get it up as we're talking. Take me a minute.
I had a thought about the fact that most people, the highest number on your chart was people talking to friends. And I know from young kids being here right now, and some of them are involved in organizations, that sometimes there's a few people that are really active, and then there's a lot of members who are kind of coming and going. And I wondered if there's some way that we could communicate to the kids who are in a club, even the ones that are maybe not in it really deeply, to everyone, just, this is email not email, Snapchat, Instagram, 3 kids a day. And everybody in all the organizations just tell 3 people about this club that aren't in it now. And if you got every single person in the 20 people in a club and they all told 3 people, yeah, they at least heard about it from somebody specifically. And if you had some kind of a promotion to kind of encourage that to happen across all the clubs. And some people
that's a
wouldn't,
culture. That's
Yeah,
the
and-
internal culture of each club.
and some
Different
wouldn't,
laws. So,
but you might get half the kids to do it.
Good idea. And so, yeah, I think IUP does a pretty good job of using Crimson Connect, in terms of, getting information out about student workers, and there's, yeah, and there's a shameless plug, the IUP Votes is having its end of semester party, so I knew about the system, so last week I created this event, and it's off in center, so people can use this to not only find, events, but it's free food time. You can get the whole list, like you said, of the organizations, and you can filter it by category also, which is kind of nice. Performing arts, and these are all the organizations of performing arts. The one example I use in website training for IUP is the Graphic Design Association. And so here's performing arts, I think. So if I search for graphic design, there we go, there's Graphic Design Association, so I could join, and if they accepted my membership, then I would be considered a member of that student organization, according to me. Okay, perfect.
And I think it's important to note too, that like in Crimson Connect, we've gotten into the habit now, of when we do orientation presentations, we make sure we like kind of tap it during the presentations and have the students either, if we don't have the login in front of us, we like make sure.
I did. I mean, maybe I can-
Yeah.
Well, let's go. What do you want us to do? That.
Yeah, so that's a big thing now that we can.
So that's familiar.
Yeah,
That's great.
and they can look there for their specificity.
Right.
Well, at least they'll get some, whatever information, because I could see some of that information kind of be a little lazy, and I wanna, but what do you really do? You know, it's
Right,
really
yeah.
like the feeling of they're looking for, it's, but what does that mean? Like,
Yeah.
we take tours on campus, what's that mean? Like,
Yeah.
you really just walk around campus? Okay, if you're wanting to be an ambassador, or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah, right, and with their IUP credentials, that gives them contact information too, so that allows them to like. See the president and the advisor and have the roster and email those people if they do have specific questions.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I know some people have to go, so I'm gonna just share my last slide here and then I'll stop the recording after that. So if you want to stay in touch, if you want the results, I'll be presenting again on this topic. Because I'm going to defend my master's thesis at the end of next month, but pass that around. And there's my personal contact information on there, so I'm going to end recording. You don't have to leave quite yet, but